The charity clinic smelled of antiseptic and hope. Sophia Chen pressed her back against the peeling wall, watching Marcus Rivers stitch up a homeless man's wound with practiced precision. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting shadows across his concentrated face. She'd been volunteering here for 3 months. 3 months of hiding who she really was. "Hand me the gauze," Marcus said without looking up. Sophia reached for it, their fingers brushing. Electric. Always electric. The patient left with genuine thanks, no money exchanged. Marcus wiped his hands on his worn scrubs, exhaustion etched in every line of his body. He worked 3 jobs to keep this free clinic running. She'd learned that by watching, by listening to conversations he thought she wasn't part of. "Coffee?" he asked, those dark eyes finally meeting hers. "Always." The diner down the street was nearly empty. Marcus ordered black coffee. Sophia did the same, though she was used to hand-roasted Ethiopian beans served in porcelain cups. Not this burnt offering in chipped ceramic. "You're different from the other volunteers," Marcus said, studying her across the table. "They come for resume padding. You come like you're running from something." Sophia's heart stopped. Could he see through her carefully constructed lie? The thrift store clothes, the studio apartment she'd rented in his neighborhood, the fabricated backstory of a struggling graduate student? "Maybe I am," she said carefully. "From what?" "Expectations." He smiled then, sad and knowing. "I get that. My family expected me to take over the construction business. Instead, I racked up $200,000 in medical school debt to help people who can't pay." Guilt twisted in Sophia's stomach. Her trust fund could erase his debt with a single phone call. But would he love her if he knew? Or would he see just another rich girl playing at poverty, slumming it for thrills? "That's noble," she said. "It's stupid," he corrected. "But it's mine." 3 weeks later, Marcus kissed her in the supply closet between patients. His hands trembled against her face, gentle despite their roughness. She kissed him back, tasting coffee and desire and something deeper she couldn't name. "I'm falling for you," he whispered against her mouth. "I know I shouldn't. I have nothing to offer. But I can't stop." Sophia's eyes burned. "You have everything that matters." That night, alone in her real penthouse across the city, she made a decision. She would test him. Not cruelly, but necessarily. The wedding was in 6 weeks. She would show up in a dress from a thrift store, no makeup, no jewelry. If he loved her truly, it wouldn't matter. But Marcus had secrets too. Ones that would shatter everything. 2 days later, she found the envelope in his locker. Medical bills. Not his. A woman's name she didn't recognize. And an amount that made her blood run cold. "Who's Elena?" she asked when he arrived. Marcus's face went white. "Who is she, Marcus?" He closed his eyes. When he opened them, she saw fear. Raw and real. "My wife." The word hung in the air like poison. Wife. Sophia stepped back, the medical bills crumpling in her fist. The clinic walls seemed to close in, the fluorescent lights suddenly too bright, too exposing. "You're married." Her voice came out hollow. Marcus said quickly. "I was married." "Please, let me explain. You proposed to me. You asked me to marry you while you already had a wife?" "She's dying, Sophia." The rawness in his voice stopped her retreat. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, the gesture so familiar it hurt. "Elena has stage 4 cancer. We've been separated for 2 years, but she has no family. No insurance. I've been paying for her treatment because no one else will." Sophia looked at the bills again. Chemotherapy. Radiation. Palliative care. Amounts that would bankrupt most people. "Why didn't you tell me?" Because everyone leaves when they find out. His eyes glistened. They hear wife and they don't hear the rest. They don't hear that we married too young, that we grew apart, that we'd already filed for divorce before she got sick. They just leave. I'm not everyone. Aren't you? The question cut deep. Because she was lying too, wasn't she? Playing dress-up in poverty while her family's name was on hospital wings and university buildings. Testing him while he was drowning in someone else's medical debt. I need time, she said. She didn't go back to her penthouse. Instead, she walked the streets until dawn, her mind a war zone of doubt and guilt. By the time the sun rose, she'd made a decision. She would continue the test. But now it meant something different. 3 weeks before the wedding, Sophia visited Marcus at the clinic. He looked like he hadn't slept, dark circles under his eyes, his scrubs wrinkled. I'm staying, she said without preamble. But I need to meet her. Elena. Marcus's relief was visceral. Thank you. God, thank you. The hospice facility was nothing like the hospital Sophia had been photographed opening. This was bare walls and tired staff and the smell of approaching death. Elena was small in the bed, her skin translucent, but her eyes were sharp. So you're the new one, Elena said, her voice scratchy. The volunteer. I'm Sophia. I know who you are. Elena's smile was knowing. I may be dying, but I'm not stupid. Chen Hotels. Chen Medical. Your face is on half the charity galas in this city. Sophia's blood turned to ice. Does Marcus know, she whispered. That you're rich? No. He doesn't pay attention to that world. Elena coughed, a wet, terrible sound. But I do. I was a social worker before this. I recognize a rich girl playing poor when I see one. It's not like that. Isn't it? Elena's gaze was unflinching. You're testing him. Seeing if he'll love you without the money. Meanwhile, he's destroying himself to keep me alive, and you could pay these bills with your pocket change. Shame flooded through Sophia. I wanted to know if it was real. Love is never real when it's built on lies. Elena reached for her water with shaking hands. You want to know a secret? Marcus knows you're lying too. He's known for weeks. The world tilted. What? He saw your real driver's license fall out of your purse. Looked you up. He's been playing along, wondering when you'd tell him the truth. Elena's laugh was bitter. You're both liars. Maybe you deserve each other. Sophia stumbled out of the hospice, her chest tight. Marcus knew. He'd known and said nothing. Was he playing her too? Using her guilt about his situation to manipulate her? Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Elena told you, didn't she? We need to talk. Please. But Sophia was done talking. She had 2 weeks to decide if she would show up to their wedding at all. And in that hospice room, Elena made a phone call that would destroy them both. The coffee shop where they finally met was neutral territory. Rain streaked the windows, blurring the San Francisco streets into watercolor impressions. Marcus arrived first, looking haggard. Sophia sat across from him, her hands wrapped around a cup she wouldn't drink. When did you know? She asked. 6 weeks ago. Your ID fell out when you were getting supplies. Sophia Chen. I put it together pretty fast. And you said nothing. You were testing me, Marcus said, his voice tight with controlled anger. I figured I'd let you finish your little experiment. See how long you'd keep lying. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He leaned forward. You pretended to be poor while watching me work myself to death. You let me apologize for not being able to afford nice dates while you probably spend more on shoes than I make in a month. I needed to know if you loved me for me. By lying? His laugh was harsh. That's rich. Literally. Sophia felt tears threaten. You lied too. About Elena. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you immediately that I was still legally married to a dying woman. There's a difference. Is there? They sat in angry silence, the rain drumming against glass. Elena called my mother, Sophia finally said. Told her everything. About you, about the debt, about my little disguise. Marcus paled. When? Yesterday. My mother is threatening to cut me off completely if I go through with the wedding. She thinks you're a con artist targeting me for my money. Jesus. Marcus pressed his palms against his eyes. This is such a mess. My family's lawyer is drafting a prenup. It's brutal, Marcus. You'd get nothing if we divorced. They want you to sign it before the wedding. I don't want your money. Don't you? The question escaped before she could stop it. You're drowning in medical debt. I could make it all go away. Isn't that convenient? Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You really think that's what this is? That I looked up your net worth and decided to lock you down? I don't know what to think anymore. I fell in love with the woman who stayed late at the clinic. Who held scared patients' hands. Who laughed at my terrible jokes and didn't care that I drove a 15-year-old car. His voice cracked. That woman. Not your bank account. How do I know that's true? You don't. Just like I don't know if you actually love me or if this was all some twisted social experiment. Marcus pulled on his jacket. Maybe your mother's right. Maybe we're both too damaged for this. He left without looking back. Sophia sat alone, her reflection ghostly in the rain-soaked window. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you want the truth about Marcus, meet me at St. Mary's Hospital. Room 412. Come alone. Elena. 20 minutes later, Sophia stood outside Elena's new room. The woman had been transferred, the hospice care no longer adequate. Sophia pushed open the door. Elena looked worse, her breathing labored. But her eyes were still sharp, still knowing. You came. What do you want? To tell you the truth. Elena gestured weakly to the chair. The whole truth, not the part Marcus knows. Sophia sat, dread pooling in her stomach. Marcus thinks I got sick after our divorce was filed. That's what I told him. Elena coughed, a rattling sound. But I was already sick when I asked for the divorce. Stage 3. I knew what was coming. Why? Because I didn't want him to stay out of obligation. I loved him enough to set him free before I became a burden. Tears tracked down Elena's hollow cheeks. But then I got worse, faster than anyone expected. And Marcus, being Marcus, came back. Not as a husband, but as a doctor. As a friend. Sophia's throat tightened. He could have walked away, Elena continued. I gave him every out. But he pays my bills, visits twice a week, holds my hand when the pain is too much. Not because he loves me romantically. Because that's who he is. Then why did you call my mother? Why try to destroy us? Elena's face hardened. Because you were playing games with a good man's heart. Testing him like he was some subject in your rich girl experiment. He deserves better than someone who can't trust him. I'm trying to protect myself. From what? Love? Elena laughed, bitter and wet. I'm dying, Sophia. I've got maybe a month. And the only thing I regret is wasting time being afraid. Time I could have spent being honest, being vulnerable, being real. The machines beeped steadily. Outside, San Francisco's lights began to glow against the darkening sky. There's something else, Elena said. Something Marcus doesn't know. Something that will change everything. What? He's not paying my medical bills anymore. Someone else is. Someone who's been covering everything for the last 3 months. Elena's eyes locked on Sophia's. Someone whose family foundation happens to have my case file flagged as a priority. Sophia's world stopped. Your mother, Elena whispered. She's been paying all along. Sophia drove through the rain to her mother's estate, her hands shaking on the wheel. The mansion sat on Pacific Heights, all glass and steel and old money discretion. Margaret Chen was waiting in the study, a tumbler of scotch in her hand. Even at midnight, she looked impeccable in a silk blouse and tailored pants. You've been paying Elena's bills, Sophia said without preamble. Her mother didn't flinch. Sit down. I'll stand. Why? Margaret took a slow sip. Because I wanted to know what kind of man you'd chosen. So I had him investigated. You had him investigated. Of course. You're my only daughter. Did you think I'd let you marry a stranger? Margaret set down her glass. The investigation revealed his ex-wife's situation. I saw an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To test him. Her mother's smile was cold. If he was a gold digger, he'd mention the mysterious benefactor paying Elena's bills. He'd try to find out who it was, leverage it somehow. If he was genuine, he'd just be grateful and never question it. Sophia felt sick. We're not so different, you and I. No, Margaret agreed. We're not. We both protect what's ours. I've been paying those bills for 3 months. Not once has Marcus tried to find his benefactor. He just keeps showing up at that clinic, working himself to death, being exactly who he appears to be. Then why threaten to cut me off? Why the prenup? Margaret stood, moving to the window overlooking the city. Because I needed to see what you'd do. Would you choose money or love? Would you marry him anyway, knowing you'd lose everything? This is insane. This is reality, Sophia. Her mother turned, and for the first time, Sophia saw vulnerability in those sharp eyes. Your father married me for money. I knew it, he knew it, but we played our parts. 30 years of a beautiful lie. I won't let that happen to you. So you manipulated both of us. I gave you a choice. Margaret crossed to her desk, pulled out a document. This is the real prenup. Not the brutal one my lawyer drafted. This one is fair. Reasonable. It protects you, but it also provides for Marcus if things don't work out. Sophia took it, her hands trembling. What if I don't sign either one? Then you lose your trust fund, your position in the company, everything. And Marcus will spend the rest of his life wondering if you chose him or the money. The trap was perfect. Diabolical. There's a third option, Margaret said quietly. You don't marry him at all. You walk away. I'll continue paying Elena's bills until the end. Marcus never has to know about any of this. He'll remember you as the woman who couldn't handle his complicated life. That's not an option. Then you have until Saturday to decide. Her mother's face softened slightly. I know I'm a monster. But I'm a monster who loves you. Everything I've done has been to protect you from the same heartbreak I lived. Sophia left without another word. The wedding was in 3 days. She had 3 days to decide if she would show up in her thrift store dress, play out her test while knowing Marcus had been tested too. 3 days to decide if their love was strong enough to survive the web of lies and manipulation. She drove to Marcus's apartment, a cramped studio above a laundromat. He answered the door in sweats, eyes red. I know about the bills, she said. I know my mother's been paying them. Marcus's face crumpled. How long have you known? I just found out. How long have you known? 2 weeks. Elena told me. She thought I should know before the wedding that your family was investigating me. He leaned against the doorframe. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. Didn't know if you'd think I was grateful or guilty or just using you. They stood in the narrow hallway, the smell of detergent and old building rising around them. My mother wants me to sign a prenup, Sophia said. If I don't, I lose everything. Sign it. Marcus. Sign it, he repeated firmly. I don't want your money, Sophia. I never did. If signing some paper proves that, then sign it. It's not that simple. Why not? Because. Her voice broke. Because I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if you can trust me. We've both been lying, both been tested, and I don't know what's real anymore. Marcus stepped closer, his hand cupping her face. This is real. Right here. You and me in this terrible hallway. No money, no games, no tests. Just us. He kissed her then, desperate and tender. Sophia kissed him back, tasting salt from tears she didn't know she was crying. I'm still wearing the thrift store dress, she whispered against his mouth. On Saturday. I'm going through with it. Why? Because I need to know who I am when everything else is stripped away. And I need you to see me that way too. Marcus pulled back, studying her face. Okay. Then I have something to tell you. Something that changes everything. Her heart stopped. What? Elena's not going to make it to the wedding. The doctors gave her 3 days. Maybe less. His voice cracked. She wants to see us married before she dies. It's her last wish. Sophia closed her eyes. The final test. The ultimate sacrifice. Then we move the wedding, she said. We do it tomorrow. At the hospice. Your family. I don't care. If we're doing this, we do it for the right reasons. For Elena. For us. Not for anyone else. But as she left his apartment, Sophia's phone buzzed with a message that would shatter what remained of her carefully constructed world. From Elena, I lied about the timeline. I'm not dying in 3 days. I could have years with the right treatment. I manipulated you both because I wanted to see if your love was real. Forgive me. Or don't. But know this, Marcus doesn't know. Don't tell him. Let him make his choice thinking I'm dying. That's the real test. The hospice chapel was small, built for final goodbyes rather than beginnings. Sophia stood in the bathroom, staring at her reflection. The thrift store dress hung loose on her frame, simple white cotton with a faded hem. No makeup. No jewelry. Just her. Elena's message burned in her mind. The woman wasn't dying imminently. This rushed wedding was based on another lie, another manipulation in an endless chain of tests. She could tell Marcus. Should tell Marcus. But something stopped her. Maybe Elena was right. Maybe this was the real test. Not of love, but of choice. A knock on the door. Sophia? It's time. Marcus stood in the hallway wearing a borrowed suit, too big in the shoulders. He looked terrified and determined in equal measure. You look beautiful, he said. I look like I shopped at Goodwill. You look like you. He took her hand. That's all I've ever wanted. They walked to the chapel together. No guests except Elena in her wheelchair, oxygen tube trailing, and a hospice chaplain who'd agreed to perform the ceremony. Margaret Chen sat in the back row. Uninvited but present, her face unreadable. Dearly beloved, the chaplain began. But Sophia couldn't hear the words. All she could see was Elena's knowing smile, her mother's calculating gaze, Marcus's genuine hope. 3 women who'd tested him in different ways. And now the final choice was hers. I can't do this, she said. The chapel went silent. Marcus's hand tightened on hers. What? Not like this. Not with lies still between us. Sophia turned to face him fully. Elena's not dying. Not the way she said. She could have years with the right treatment. Marcus looked at Elena, betrayal and confusion warring on his face. What is she talking about? Elena's expression didn't change. It's true. I lied about the timeline. I wanted to see if you'd rush into marriage for me or if you'd do it for her. You manipulated us, Marcus said, his voice hollow. I did what your mother did, Elena gestured to Margaret. What Sophia did. I tested you. Because that's what people do when they're afraid. They test and scheme and lie, trying to find truth through deception. This is insane, Marcus said. All of you are insane. He dropped Sophia's hand, walked to the window. The hospice garden spread below, autumn leaves falling in the courtyard. Sophia followed. Marcus. Don't. He didn't turn. I'm done being tested. I'm done with games and lies and people treating love like it's a transaction to be audited. I know. You're right. Then why are we here? Margaret spoke from the back. Because despite everything, you still love her. Marcus turned, and Sophia saw tears on his face. Love shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't require lawyers and tests and dying women's manipulations. No, Sophia agreed. It shouldn't. But maybe real love is what survives all of that anyway. She reached into her purse, pulled out 2 documents. The brutal prenup and the fair one. She tore them both in half. I'm not signing either, she said. And I'm not asking you to either. If we do this, we do it with nothing but faith. No safety nets. No protections. Just 2 broken people choosing each other. Your mother will cut you off, Marcus said. Margaret stood. No. I won't. She walked to her daughter, and for the first time in years, Sophia saw tears in her mother's eyes. I tested you because I was afraid. Afraid you'd make my mistakes. But you're braver than I ever was. She turned to Marcus. I'll keep paying Elena's bills. Not as manipulation. As a gift. Because my daughter loves you, and apparently you're too stubborn to take help directly. Elena laughed from her wheelchair, the sound wet but genuine. I suppose I should apologize. You should, Marcus said. But his anger was fading, replaced by exhausted resignation. You really could have years. With the right treatment. Your future mother-in-law has been providing that treatment. Elena's smile turned sad. I'm still dying, Marcus. Just slower than I said. I wanted to give you permission to be happy. To stop feeling guilty. This seemed like the fastest way. The chapel fell quiet except for the hum of Elena's oxygen machine. Sophia took Marcus's hand again. I don't need a test to know I love you. I needed this mess to understand that love isn't about certainty. It's about choice. Every day, we choose each other despite the fear. What if we fail? Marcus asked. Then we fail together. He looked at her then, really looked at her. The thrift store dress, the bare face, the woman underneath all the pretense. Okay, he said. Let's get married. The ceremony was simple. No grand declarations, just quiet vows spoken in a hospice chapel with the smell of antiseptic and dying flowers. When the chaplain pronounced them married, Marcus kissed her softly, his hands gentle on her face. Elena cried. Margaret dabbed her eyes with a silk handkerchief. And Sophia felt something shift in her chest, something that had been wound tight for years finally relaxing. They left the hospice as husband and wife, walking into the autumn evening. No limousine waited. No reception. Just the 2 of them and the rest of their lives stretching ahead, uncertain and terrifying and real. "I'm still going to work at the clinic," Marcus said as they walked. "I know. And I'm probably going to drive you crazy with my schedule." "I know that too. And your family is going to think I married you for money no matter what I do." Sophia stopped, pulled him close. "I don't care what they think. I care what you think. What I think. The rest is just noise." They stood on the San Francisco street, the city glowing around them. Not a fairy tale ending. Not a test passed or failed. Just two damaged people who'd chosen each other despite everything. A week later, Sophia started working full-time at the clinic. No more pretending to volunteer. No more hiding her resources. She used her family's connections to secure funding, to bring in specialists, to expand services to 3 locations. Marcus never asked her to. But she wanted to build something with him. Something real. Elena lived another 2 years, long enough to see their first child born. She held the baby girl in the same hospice where they'd married, her frail hands steady with purpose. "You named her Margaret Elena," she whispered. "After 2 terrible women who loved you. After 2 women who taught me that love is worth fighting for," Sophia corrected. When Elena finally passed, both Sophia and Marcus were there, holding her hands. The woman who'd tested them, manipulated them, and ultimately freed them to be honest. At the funeral, Margaret gave the eulogy. She was manipulative, interfering, and absolutely convinced she knew what was best for everyone. In other words, she was exactly like me. And I loved her for it. Years passed. The clinic grew. Marcus's debt was paid. Sophia's relationship with her mother healed slowly, built on new honesty rather than old games. And sometimes, on difficult days when the weight of life felt heavy, Marcus would find Sophia and say, "Want to know something?" "What?" "I'd choose you again. Every time. Even knowing all of this. Even knowing I'm a manipulative heiress who tested your love. Especially because of that." He'd kiss her forehead. "Because you loved me enough to risk everything to find the truth. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen." Their love wasn't perfect. It was scarred and complicated and built on a foundation of lies that had somehow transformed into truth. But it was theirs. Chosen. Real. And in the end, that was the only test that mattered. The end.